On April 22nd, 2020, Vanessa Guillen went missing while stationed at Fort Hood. She had been working in the armory on base that day and had plans to meet up with her friends after work, but never showed up, which wasn't like her. At once, her family jumped into action, driving all night to the base in order to look for her. But when they were denied entry by the military, they decided that they would find her themselves. Vanessa's family started a campaign to find her that took over social media. They constantly tweeted about the case, hung flyers in gas stations in the area, and held events outside the base, making sure that everyone in the area knew who Vanessa was. Their efforts paid off, as both mainstream news media and social media began talking about the story, focusing on the military's lack of action. Vanessa's family spoke to the press, and more people began to talk about Vanessa online. An anonymous donor paid for a billboard to be made, asking for more tips regarding the case, and Selma Hayek made an Instagram post talking about the case and urging people to come forward if they believed they had any information. That singular Instagram post led to more comments about what had occurred, and more law enforcement agencies getting involved in the case. Because of the media spotlight and social media attention on the case, the Guillens were able to find out what had happened to Vanessa, and although tragic, one of the people involved is currently being brought to justice. However, not every person who goes missing is able to get the media attention that Vanessa was, and unfortunately, that is the case today. Welcome back to another episode of Dreading, or if this is your first time here, welcome. Today we are going to be covering the unsolved case of Stacey Smart, and discussing how this Lewiston woman vanished without a trace back in 2016, but was widely ignored. Reporting on this case has been minimal, with both mainstream media and social media ignoring this case for the most part. However, hopefully, with your help, we can change that. As someone who has been able to grow a platform to almost 400,000 subscribers in less than a year, I believe that this platform can be used to help resolve unsolved cases, or at least bring attention to them, which can revive interest and lead to resolutions. Stacey's family has put up a GoFundMe to help with the search efforts, and I will leave that linked below for those who are able to donate. However, if you are unable to donate, I urge you to post about this case, tweet about Stacey, encourage others to read articles, and post pictures of her image on every social media platform that you can. Post on TikTok under trending sounds and videos. Get other true crime content creators to talk about Stacey, post on Twitter, any social media you have, because as we have seen, that can really make the difference in whether or not a case goes unsolved. We've seen the impact social media has had on unsolved cases, specifically with Vanessa Guillen and Alyssa Turney, and we have the chance to do that again. If you passively watch this content and use it for entertainment, understand that this is another person's tragedy, and that this is the least that you can do. If you comment on this video, you can also tweet. If you like this video, you can like the Help Find Stacey Smart Facebook page. And if you can donate, you can spread the word. I will leave the link to the Help Find Stacey Smart Facebook page, which is filled with graphics for you to download and use on your social media. If you are watching and you have any information regarding this case, call the Trinity County Sheriffs Department at 530-623-3740 or NorCal Alliance for the Missing Anonymous Tip Line at 530-378-4491. And there's also a $10,000 reward by the Secret Witness program for information in the missing persons case as it pertains to Stacey Smart. Stacey and her family deserve answers. With all of that said, let us begin. If there was one thing Stacey Smart was known for, it was being incredibly carefree. Stacey was the very definition of go with the flow, as she would often stop everything she was doing in order to nurture the beauty that was around her. Her son-in-law would go on to tell True Crime Daily that he called her Spacey Stacey, and recalled instances of her pulling their car over to pick flowers she liked off the side of the road. She loved beautiful things, and dedicated much of her time to nurturing the things she loved, which included her family. Stacey was close to her mother, sisters, and her daughters, and spoke to each of them multiple times a week, if not every day. She had also just recently moved in with her boyfriend of 6 months, Tony Brand, who worked as both a home care worker and a karaoke DJ, and thought the world of him. Stacey was excited about the relationship, and told her daughter multiple times how well her and Tony got along, how it felt like they were cut from the same cloth, and how it just seemed like he was the person she was meant to be with. She bragged about his artistic ability, his photography, and virtually everything about him, telling her family he was too good to be true. And it seemed in some respects he was. A couple of weeks before Halloween 2016, Stacey had found he had been cheating on her for a while. Stacey called her mother in tears, absolutely heartbroken over the fact that Tony had cheated. She felt as if he were the man of her dreams, and being betrayed in such a way was devastating. But following the call, Stacey's family stopped hearing from her, and shockingly, her phone line was completely disconnected. At first, they tried not to worry too much. Stacey was a grown woman who was going through a lot, and it was far more likely that she simply forgot to pay the phone bill. They hand-waved her disappearance, thinking that had she actually gone missing, Tony or someone would have alerted them. But as the weeks continued on and Halloween continued to approach, they began to get more and more nervous. One of Stacey's favorite things was the holidays, and when Halloween arrived and Stacey was nowhere to be found, they contacted the police to report her missing. Stacey would never have missed a holiday celebration, and the fact that she hadn't so much as called was alarming. Stacey's family began contacting everyone in her life. Her neighbors, her friends, and everyone who knew her all seemingly had the same general story. They had all seen her or heard from her prior to October 15th, but after that, she seemingly vanished, and no one seemed to know where Tony was either. Out of all the stories of when they had last seen Stacey, one stuck out, that being from her closest neighbor. She stated on October 14th, Stacey and Tony had come to a birthday party at their home. During the party, the couple had gotten into an argument, and by the end of the night, multiple people claimed to have seen them fighting loudly. At that point, Stacey's family contacted the police, now convinced that she wasn't just missing, she was in danger. It had been an entire 2 weeks since Stacey had been last seen, which put law enforcement at a steep disadvantage. For those of you who are unaware, the first 72 hours of a missing persons investigation are the most crucial, as it is more likely that they will be found if they are reported missing in that time frame. Every hour is important, and contacting those who had recently seen Stacey would have been the highest priority. How was she? Did she seem distressed? Did she say anything out of the ordinary? All of these questions would have been asked, and had they been asked closer to the date she went missing, chances are more information could have been gleaned, as the conversations would have been fresher in their minds. If I asked you how your mom acted 2 weeks ago, you wouldn't be able to provide a detailed answer, but if I asked you how she acted a day ago, you would. These pieces of information are imperative to a missing persons investigation, and the likelihood that someone will be found after the first 72 hours is slim, although not impossible. Unfortunately, the same day Stacey had been reported missing, Sherry Papini would abscond her ex-boyfriend and fake her own kidnapping just a few miles away. Sherry's faux kidnapping scheme dominated the press, and Stacey's sincere disappearance was ignored. Even on the Help Find Stacey Smart Facebook page, which was made to raise awareness of the case, multiple people commented to talk about Sherry, and how she was also reported missing, and how it was possibly connected. When people discuss Sherry's fake kidnapping, and someone questions why what she did is so bad, this is why. Sherry's kidnapping took the media attention and spotlight away from a real victim, who deserved the spotlight. We will never know if the media would have focused on Stacey's case had Sherry not orchestrated her own abduction. But had they, inevitably more tips would have come in, more people would have participated in the search efforts, and there is a chance that we would know where Stacey is. But Sherry took that opportunity away. Despite that, there was still a slight break in the case. After a day or so, Stacey's family was able to get in touch with Tony, who had reappeared in the couple's apartment, albeit without his girlfriend. Tony stated that like them, he had no idea where Stacey was, and was just as confused as they were. Like everyone else, he said he last saw Stacey weeks earlier, but when she went missing, he didn't think to raise the alarm. That didn't sit well with the family. If Stacey had up and left like Tony had said, why had he not tried to get into contact with her, or inform them that she was missing? How could he, her live-in boyfriend, not realize that she had vanished? It didn't make sense to them. They asked to see the couple's shared apartment, and Tony allowed them in. In it, they found that there were pieces of the carpet that had been cut out and removed. Immediately, this sent up red flags for Stacey's family. But it was later determined that this had been done months earlier, as Stacey had wanted to make a sort of patchwork design on the carpet. While searching their home, Stacey's sister began calling friends of the couple and found out that Tony had been telling them different stories in regards to why Stacey no longer lived with him. In one instance, he told a friend that Stacey had broken up with him 2 weeks prior and had fully moved all of her things out. This was in spite of the fact that all of her belongings, sans her purse, were still in the apartment. In another instance, he told a mutual friend that Stacey had gotten violent with him after a fight, and he had forced her to move. And then, when speaking with Stacey's son-in-law, he changed his story again, saying that while he hadn't seen Stacey in 2 weeks, she had been in the area, and he knew this because she had been in the home when he wasn't there. Tony claimed that Stacey had come to the home multiple times, taking her possessions from the home and leaving him little notes, which let him know that she was all right. He made sure to emphasize the fact that he hadn't seen her during these visits, but she was the only one with his spare key, and she only took her items when visiting, so he knew it was her. When asked by the family and law enforcement to provide these notes so they could match her handwriting, Tony said he didn't know where they were and later claimed that he must have accidentally thrown them out, but that the family should trust that this happened, which they didn't. Tony had been the last person to be seen with Stacey, and it seemed that every time he spoke to someone about the case, his story changed. The police eventually searched the home, but found nothing of interest, most likely because, had a crime occurred in the shared home, he had ample time to clean up. When Tony spoke to the police, he once again gave them a different story. Tony told the police that previously in their relationship, Stacey had vanished without a trace for a couple of weeks, then returned as if nothing had happened. He claimed that she had a tendency to go missing due to her free spirit, and he figured that she was just doing this again. He tried to emphasize that he had heard from her, and she would eventually show up. It should be noted that no one else confirmed Tony's story, that she had previously disappeared. Tony was so certain that Stacey would show up that he told the family that, should it come down to it, he would be more than willing to take a lie detector test to confirm his story. Which one of these stories he was talking about, they were unsure. But in most investigations like this one, the police often use someone's willingness to take a lie detector test as a sign of innocence. He was so certain of this that when the family put together multiple search parties in the area, Tony opted not to attend. Nearly 2 weeks after being reported missing, and a month without being seen, Tony posted this to Facebook. I want to thank all my friends during this very hard and very strange thing with my girlfriend going missing. Stacey Smart Hamilton. Please send your prayers and hopes for her to return as soon as possible. It's been 3 weeks. Tony Brand. 5 months after Stacey went missing, with no answers and no leads, the family began to pressure Tony to follow through on his promise to take a polygraph test. They repeatedly posted on social media, essentially shaming him into action. But despite what he had said earlier in the investigation, he refused. He claimed he wouldn't take the test unless he had a lawyer present. Stacey's son-in-law, concerned only with finding her and bringing their family back together, went forth and paid for Tony's lawyer himself, determined to get Tony to talk to the police. However, Tony still refused to take a polygraph test in conjunction with law enforcement, and instead, according to his lawyer, Doug Gardner, took a polygraph test privately. According to the Record Searchlight, Tony did take a test with just his lawyer present, the results of which have not been validated due to, quote, computer problems. Tony did provide photos of the report on Facebook, which state that he was being honest when he said he didn't know what happened to Stacey, and he hadn't done anything to cause her disappearance. To clarify, he couldn't send the original report to police or the media outlets asking for it, but he could take a picture of an open screen on his computer that had the very specific result he wanted, which he could easily have faked. Many people believe that Tony never actually completed a polygraph test, and the results are fake, which is why they refused to send them to the police. Due to the time between her disappearance and filing of missing persons report and the lack of media attention, the case quickly went cold. Tips stopped pouring in, and when Stacey was spoken about, it was a byline in the case of Sherry Papini. Police were able to uncover the last time Stacey's bank card had been used was October 16th, a day after being seen arguing with Tony, but otherwise, there were no breaks in the case. As of today, this is all that has been made publicly available about the case. If you have any information, please call the Trinity County Sheriffs Department at 530-623-3740 or NorCal Alliance for the Missing Anonymous tip line at 530-378-4491. The Smart family has a GoFundMe, which the proceeds will be used for hiring a private investigator and search and rescue team to aid in the search, and I implore you to donate, as I will be doing as well. Alone, our voices are small, but together they are powerful. So let's help find Stacey Smart. Thank you for watching this video. If there are any other cases you would like me to cover, please leave them in the comments down below or email me at dreading.official@gmail.com. Have a great day and remember to stay safe.